Hello, hello, hello. You must be the new house servant, yes. It's about time you got here. All the others arrived yesterday. No, don't bother explaining. When those who serve me fail to meet my expectations, there's no such thing as a good reason. All I need from you is your assurance that it won't happen again. I trust you'll be punctual from this day forward, yes? Good. It seems that I severely underestimated how many servants it would take to manage my brand new mansion. I suppose that's thanks to all the fine art I've put into it. It all requires such delicate care to maintain. But before we get into all of that, I think I should clear a few things up. The rest of the new hires had quite a few questions yesterday, and since you weren't here to hear them, it seems that it falls to me to make sure that you're brought up to speed. So, to start things off, yes, I am a Lamia, and yes, I am a noble, even though this is a predominantly human kingdom. Before I was a noble, I was the owner of a very successful trading caravan. It brought a great deal of wealth to this kingdom, so much so that when I settled into early retirement, your king offered me a title and a large piece of land. That should cover the basic questions. Now, on to your duties. As you have already heard, this mansion is brand new. I needed something grander than what I was originally provided with. And naturally, it needs plenty of servants to keep it in acceptable condition. Unfortunately for you, the rest of the servants have already filled in the more specialized positions, which are also the best paying ones. I'm afraid that's the cost of tardiness. Instead, you'll be... Well, I suppose you'll just be doing whatever needs to be done at the moment. All the little things, you know, cleaning, making the bed, assisting the other servants, and really, anything else I order. Oh? Not what you signed up for? Well, I don't know what you were promised, but I'm afraid that you quite literally did sign up for this. You were given a contract, yes? And you signed it? Well then, that's all there is to it. Honestly, I'm astonished that you didn't even bother to read a legally binding contract before giving your signature. Peasants, really. Leave? Oh no, you won't be going anywhere. Like I said, you signed that contract. I'm not going to go through the trouble of hiring someone else just because you suddenly got cold feet, especially after arriving a day late. Frankly, this is all on you. Oh, I stop you. Oh, come on now, don't play these games. For starters, I have guards. You pass them on your way in, and if I really wanted to, I would be more than a match for you all on my own. Lamias are naturally powerful, and I've been careful not to allow my life of luxury to make me soft. But in the end, there's no need for any of that. I don't need to physically stop you from leaving. My true power doesn't lie with scales or swords, but with knowledge and influence. I researched each applicant when I hired them. I know all about you. You're a humble little peasant hoping to earn some extra money for your family. But you seem to forget that your family works for me. I own the land they live on. All I have to do is write one letter, and then you and your family will be homeless and jobless. And I'm sure a good little child like you wouldn't want to do that to them, would you? I'm impressed. No yelling or crying or running. I can see that you understand the position you're in. You're rather smart for a farmer's child, aren't you? Wonderful. You'll make an excellent servant yet. Well, then I suppose I will put you to work. Follow me. Right in here. This is my office. As you can imagine, I've had quite a bit of work pile up while I was busy moving in. There's a great deal of paperwork involved in managing such a large tract of land. I'm probably going to have to spend the rest of my day catching up. But while I do, I want you to massage my coils. You heard me. I've been so active the last couple of days, slithering to and fro, making sure all my belongings ended up where they belonged and all the servants understood their duties. I've been left terribly sore, and so you're going to massage every inch of my tail to relieve all of that built-up stress. Oh goodness, don't be so bashful. Just think of it as one of the many tasks you'll have to perform in my employ. I wonder what else I'll have you do. Perhaps muck out the stables, or clean in between each of the tiles in the main hall. No comment? Well then get to it. I'm not paying you to stand there and scowl at me, amusing though it may be. That's not a bad start, but you don't need to be so timid about it. Lamia's tail is mostly muscle, so you'll need to get in deep to loosen up all these knots. Don't worry, I don't expect a human peasant to be an expert masseuse. We'll have plenty of time to train you later. My. You certainly get absorbed in your work, don't you? You look rather adorable when you're concentrating like that. And to think you're putting that much effort into a task even after the way I treated you. I'd say you passed my little test. Yes, indeed. I've been testing you ever since you arrived. I don't allow just anyone to work for me, and there's only so much I can learn about you from records. All the other servants were tested as well. I wanted to see how you would all react when I was at my worst, who would grumble, who would lash out, who would run. Quite a few couldn't handle it, but you and a handful of others patiently endured my venomous tongue, and you will all be rewarded for it. Now, this isn't to say I won't be working you hard. I only expect the best from my employees, but you can rest assured that I won't be resorting to insults and threats. Your family's home was never in danger, and you'll be able to profoundly improve their lifestyle with your earnings. No, but do keep massaging. I was telling the truth about how sore I am. It feels heavenly to get all those kinks worked out. Part of me doesn't want you to stop, but you should probably go get yourself acquainted with the mansion, and especially with the servants' quarters. Go ask another one of the servants to show you around. I would do it myself, but I really do need to catch up. If you finish before dark, come back to see me, and I'll see if there's anything else I need you to do for me. I look forward to your service. Farewell until we next see each other. Ah, there you are. Did you bring me the wine? Wonderful. Pour me some, please. I need to focus on these documents. Thank you. I don't think this is the one I asked you to bring me. No need. This is all right, but do try to learn the difference in the future. This proposal is ridiculous. I'm honestly not sure if I'm supposed to take this as an insult. Oh, I'm going over a proposal for a trade agreement. A neighboring lord called Lord Moston wants some of the textiles we produce, but I couldn't possibly take this offer. It doesn't even cover the cost of materials, let alone the labor. He probably thinks I don't actually know what I'm doing. They always assume that, and I can't understand why. Being a Lamia noble in a human kingdom means I didn't inherit my position or otherwise receive outside help. To get the kind of recognition from the king that I did, I needed to really stand out. But, like half the nobility here, somehow he thinks I just lucked into it. Personally, I chalk it up to vanity. They all think that they're the ideal noble, and if someone is different from them, it must mean that they aren't cut out for it. Not that I mind. This is a cutthroat business, and being underestimated works heavily in my favor. Now, what to do with him? Oh, we'll see how his offer changes once I undercut him. His main export is leather goods, and he gets the hides for it from Lord Fane, who specializes in livestock. But I have the facilities to produce leather as well, and I'm in a position to pay much more for those hides than him. Once his production has screeched to a halt, he'll come crawling to me, begging to back off. And I'll do it. For much, much more than he's offered me here. I'm sure it sounds a bit cruel to your ears, but he would do the same to me. And worse. In the end, it's his fault for trying to cheat me. But anyway, that can wait for later. I think it's time we had a talk. Oh, you're not in any sort of trouble. I just want to check in and see how things are going. How are you feeling? Are you feeling at all overworked or burnt out? Do you feel that your pay is fair? Good. Good. But I don't want to mislead you into thinking that I'm an overly generous person. I ask largely because it causes me problems when my servants feel mistreated. My own productivity relies on you all taking care of things that I don't have time for. Disgruntled employees are slow, sloppy, and occasionally malicious. It benefits both of us to have you taken care of. Oh, not quite. I won't just give a servant whatever they ask for. I can be a bit flexible if I'm convinced it's warranted, but servants who expect more than I'm willing to give are usually replaced. But that doesn't seem to apply to you. You've been a good servant to me thus far. I'd say you put in good effort and are quite competent. You do make mistakes, of course, but you're good at correcting them and learning not to make them twice. That's the important part. As long as you know how to improve yourself, it doesn't matter what your skill level is when you start out. It reminds me of my early days, back when I was part of that trading caravan. I was poor and homeless at the time. They didn't hire me because of any particular skill set, but they just needed a Lamia in the caravan in order to trade in the Slake Desert. Yes, it's a bit of an unusual law. The Slake Desert is Lamia territory. The Lamias of the desert are very distrusting of outsiders, and require that any group entering the desert have a Lamia with them, ostensibly to prove that they aren't hostile to our kind. Really, it's just to keep outsiders away without saying as much, since it's rare to find Lamias outside their territory, and you can't go in to recruit one. But I was in the process of leaving my homeland to find employment, and they had set up camp at the border, hoping to meet a Lamia such as myself. They didn't offer me much, but all I had to do was be there, and I knew there wasn't much else I was qualified for, so I accepted. But I watched and listened carefully, learned how they negotiated, how they spoke to customers, and how they planned their routes. One day I offered to help, and I began to prove my worth. It wasn't long before I owned the whole operation. Oh, but listen to me prattle on, boasting about myself. I actually wanted to ask you a bit about your background. I know the basic facts from the research I conducted prior to hiring you, but I don't know your own view of it. Well, I'm happy to hear that. I do my best to ensure that the peasants who live on my land are taken care of. Much like with servants, I rely on them, so we all benefit when they feel comfortable. That's right. It is quite a large family, as I recall. A bit hard for you to feel like you stood out then? Is that why you applied to work for me? Not a bad idea. Rising above a farmer's life, being able to send money back to take care of your parents and siblings. I'm certain that makes you special in your family's eyes. It was a good plan, and it shows that you have initiative. That's a good sign, and there's a reason I asked, of course. I've been invited to a very important conference. Royalty and nobility from all over the continent will be there in order to learn from each other, sharing styles of leadership, innovations in technology, anything new and useful. It's a rare thing for so many leaders to be willing to share so openly. It'll be far away, in a different country. The long journey necessitates traveling light, and so I only plan to bring one servant with me, and I want it to be you. It might seem like a strange decision at first. You haven't served me or anyone for very long. I have many servants with far more experience for such an important expedition, but I see some very interesting traits in you. You learn quickly and easily incorporate new ideas into practice. Of all my servants, I think you would benefit most from expanding your horizons through travel. It'll also be a test of whether you're reliable enough for more important duties. It is a choice, of course. You can decide for yourself whether you're willing. What do you say? Fair enough. It's prudent to take time to think over such things. I won't require an answer for a few days. In the meantime, I'll tell you a bit more about what will be expected of you if you accept. It'll take about 2 weeks of travel to reach our destination by carriage. You will be in charge of handling my luggage during stops, purchasing necessities, and anything else I ask of you. Once we arrive, you will be my attendant. You will run errands, deliver messages, and answer at the door to my room. None of this should be unfamiliar to you, but keep in mind that you will be interacting with important people from many different places, so it's important to maintain a professional and competent demeanor. People will watch you to judge my character more than myself. But I'm confident in you. You are respectful, charming, and vigilant. If you accept, I believe you will serve me well. But for now, you may be dismissed. Tomorrow morning I'll have you help the kitchen staff with serving breakfast. I'll talk to you then. Good night. Well, that was an unmitigated disaster. No, actually, I don't think that's an exaggeration. Unmitigated disaster is precisely the right term. Well, let's go over what happened again, shall we? We're here at this conference for an exchange of knowledge between the royalty and nobility of other nations. A fair, equal exchange. As the director of the conference said, everyone here is on equal footing. It only took one person to say, oh, but someone here doesn't have feet, for everyone to decide that I can't be taken seriously. Anytime I said anything at all, I was met with some sort of pun about snakes. It's only the first day of the conference, and already racism has been established as acceptable discourse. If that's not an unmitigated disaster, then I shudder to imagine what you think qualifies. I'm sorry to snap at you. It's just humbling, I suppose. It makes me realize just how fortunate I was to meet the exact people I did. People who were either open-minded enough to accept Lamia as a business partner or greedy enough to be more interested in how I could make them rich. I almost forgot that luck had as much to do with my success as skill. That's very flattering. You know, there are wealthy people who pay people just to say things like that to them all day. You might be better off leaving with one of these other nobles. Being a Lamia in a human-dominated part of the world is always going to leave me at a disadvantage. No, you're right. I shouldn't say that. I'm happy to have you in my employ, and I'm more than capable of providing for your needs. I'm just so discouraged right now. At any rate, I think the obvious thing to do is just leave. Well, what other choice do I have? Nobody is taking me seriously. I can't contribute in any way, and if I just simply sit and listen the whole time, they'll just gossip about me being clueless and useless. Oh, believe me, gossip can matter quite a bit when it's between powerful people like those assembled here. Reputation is crucial for a noble, and it's been difficult enough for me to maintain mine without exposing myself to something like this. Fine. That's reasonable, I suppose. No reason to leave this very second. It would be better to start our journey in the morning anyway. Turn things around? Well, I certainly envy your optimism. It couldn't hurt to consider it. That much is true. Turn things around. How would I go about doing that? I can't do it on my own. A single noble can't simply demand that they be acknowledged. I'd be seen as childish. It would have the exact opposite effect. Ideally, I need an ally. Someone who can back me. It could be as simple as having them ask that I be allowed to continue after I've been interrupted. Polite and non-confrontational, but it would stop those idiots in their tracks. They couldn't do it again without being seen as boorish. The problem is finding that ally. It's rotten luck that nobody I know is attending this conference. I need to get someone on my side immediately. Another day of this would be disastrous for my reputation. I need to relax for a while. I can't think like this. Go down to the kitchen and fetch me some tea, would you? You know the kind I like. No wine. I need to be completely sound of mind for this. You were gone for quite a while. Surely you couldn't have gotten that lost. Oh, you're looking very pleased with yourself. What's this all about? I'm not sure I understand. You think you found an ally? As in... Really? All on your own? And so soon? What exactly happened? Who is it? Lady Matrail? Yes, I believe I've heard of her. A noble from... I can't remember which country exactly. I know it's part of the Eastern Kingdom's alliance. As I recall, she was instrumental in the alliance's formation. And wait, you're saying she wants to help. What did you say to her? That's certainly a straightforward approach. And why did you choose her? Did you even know who she was? Kind eyes. Not usually the best way to judge a person's character, but she is highly respected, and she's well known as a wise and just woman. So, who am I to argue with good results? Kind eyes. Did she tell you which room she's staying in? I assume she's interested in meeting us. Fantastic. That should work very nicely. Ooh, of course, the tea. Thank you. That can't have been easy for you, approaching a perfect stranger who is certainly rich and powerful and asking for a favor. It takes a great deal of bravery to do what you did. Thank you. You know, this reminds me of something. A challenge I faced early on in my career, and one that proved extremely important to my success. I had just been put in charge of my first caravan. Calling it a caravan was generous. It was 2 medium-sized carts. Of course, the main reason I was put in charge was so that I could create a regular trade route with my Lamia kin in this lake desert. You'll recall that they wouldn't allow humans in unless they were accompanied by a Lamia. As much as I complain about the close-mindedness of humans, my own people, or potentially worse, I always knew that law would be problematic. My presence couldn't always be guaranteed, especially if I wanted to ever have more than one caravan. I needed to change Lamia law to allow humans in unaccompanied if I wanted to have any kind of real success in my new career. Which isn't something easily done. Lamia are ruled by matriarchs. In this case, the title is quite literal. A single Lamia matriarch can be responsible for birthing hundreds of children. It might have been easier if I could have struck a deal with my own mother, but she lived deep in the desert, and we needed a deal with a matriarch who lived near the border. She alone would have the authority to decide who entered. But it's dangerous to question a matriarch's decision, especially for a Lamia as young as I was. It was terrifying, to say the least. My whole upbringing and even my very instincts told me not to do it, but to my surprise, the matriarch was amused by my boldness and intrigued by the advantages my deal offered. I suppose I'm telling you all of this to say that you remind me of myself. In some ways, you're stronger than I was. My future depended on seeking the favor of powerful people. You didn't have stakes that were quite so high, but you could easily have just followed my orders. You wouldn't have been any worse off if you hadn't approached Lady Matrail. So, thank you, my servant. You have proven yourself worthy at every turn, ever since your very first day where you passed my test. You have a very bright future ahead of you.